how much does Rod and company kind of let Pyotr take the reins this season to know what they have in him? Or do you kind of go 1A, 1B combo again, let Pyotr ride in his 1 year before his contract ends? Do you potentially look at an RFA and Wolf next offseason, do something crazy like that? Like, what path do you think Tulski and Rod are thinking in terms of their goaltender? Because it could go any number of ways.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways you can go down, but for me, it's like if you think that Pyotr is going to be your guy for the future, even if you go 1A, 1B, Kochetkov has to play at least 50 games. Like, you're still going to give Freddie 32, if anything else, and then maybe ride a hot goalie here and there. But if you want to figure out if he's your guy, he's got to get the bulk of the starts. Like, Freddie, this is probably his last year. Why do you want to waste the second to last year of Peter's contract with him being a 1B or a quote unquote backup in any sense of the imagination? Because you look at his goals against average and look at his save percentage over the last just 2 seasons combined, with him making most, like, he's played 89 games the last 2 seasons. He's got 50 wins, 27 last year, 24 the year before. I think his save percentage is like 0.911 or 0.10, and his goals against is a sub 2.5. That's over 2 seasons, and his adjusted goals against average is 2.6. And that's just taken into a fact of, maybe the last few games last season kind of nerfed his numbers a little bit. So take it with a grain of salt of his sub 9 and where his goals against average was. And even in the playoffs, like, you've only given Pyotr Kochetkov 10 games in the playoffs the last 2 years, and he's only started 4 of them. If he's going to be your guy, you got to give him the runway to do it. Like, limiting his playoff numbers, not giving him the actual starts that he needs to prove that, your sample size isn't going to be enough to do that. So I think if you're the Hurricanes, and if you think that Kochetkov is him after this, he's got to get the bulk of the starts. He's got to be in that net more than Freddie. Because, like, what are we doing here if you're going to have Freddie play most of the games, and then it's, okay, you have 1 year of Kochetkov left, and then you go get a different guy? Like, do you keep Pyotr in the summer? Do you next deadline, this deadline? That's a tough spot to be in. So for me, if you're making the plans for Kochetkov and you want to see what he can do with the expectations that are needed, he has to be your 1A with at least 50 starts.
I think you've also seen that while Freddie performs really well, and obviously veteran, really good goaltender, I think he actually plays better when he's not running he's not doing so much. And I think, all the Canes will remember back when, one of my favorites and Bailey's favorites and our goaltender Cam Ward, like, you just can't run one guy too much until he can't play anymore. And then your backup is nowhere to be anywhere near what you need. So I think it'd be beneficial, especially for Pyotr's development, to see where he's going to be his future with the Canes, for Freddie's play and health wise, that you do give a little bit more of the bulk to Pyotr, especially to start, because you need to see how it's going to go. Like, how's he going to play? Is he starting to mature? Is he getting out of some of those crazy habits? But like you said, like, he's had really good numbers. He's played really well. Sometimes he gets put in some interesting situations where it's like, okay, well, that's not on him. That's just how this game is going. Also, there's times where, like, how did he let that? And it's like, he hasn't played in multiple games. Like, he's got to get his feet back under him. So I fully agree. I think it would be beneficial to see a little bit more of Pyotr in this upcoming season.
I think I would agree with that sentiment. I would agree that the Canes need to let him see some more pucks, though, because at times the Canes, just the way they play, they dominate their opponent so much. Pyotr is seeing 4 shots a period, and maybe he lets one in. So that save percentage doesn't even reflect, like, what Pyotr is doing necessarily, because he's just not getting the reps in game that most other goaltenders will. So he's not able to get into his flow and rhythm that he typically would. So he lets in shots that either he shouldn't, because he hasn't seen a puck in 5.5 minutes, or someone hits an incredible shot on him and it reflects poorly on Pyotr because it's the third one of 3 shots he's let in a period, but like it was a hell of a shot, so you can't blame Pyotr on it. So he's been impacted just by how well the Canes forecheck at times and are able to keep the puck.
Darn it, Jacob Slavin.
Well, yeah, I mean, because you think about it, you go like almost the whole season, he's the guy for pretty much the whole season. You go to the LA Kings game, it's a back-to-back, and the defense is a no-show, and he gets let up for 7 goals, and he's kind of iffy after that. And I think, yeah, you get let up like that, it does mess with your psyche a little bit. And 2, plus, like we talked about, the last 9 games of the regular season last year, they were resting guys. So people want to look at the numbers and be like, oh, well, he stunk, his goals against average and his save percentage and this, and this. And it's like, well, there's some context. Guys were resting. The Hurricanes weren't really trying at that point. So yeah, the numbers don't really reflect that. But if you look at the whole season, goalie doesn't just luck his way into 27 wins. Like Pyotr Kochetkov won 27 games last year. That's a lot. Like I said, he's won 50 games in the last 2 seasons and 89 starts. That's pretty dang impressive for a goalie to have that. So to act like that he isn't consistent or he's not that guy or that our goaltending still is an upgrade, but it's like, and I said, you guys know this, I said it all last season. Goaltending was never the issue. It was the inconsistencies in front of the goaltending. I think if this team can lock in and have that, if they have another 14-4 start, but don't have that 500 November, that 500 December, we saw them win 6 games and lose 6 games, or have that atrocious February where you win 2 games total in that month, I think the numbers look a lot better. And I think it's not just, oh, it's the goaltending, when it's really everyone else on the team wasn't really doing much either to help them out. So I would not really put a lot of stock into the numbers of last year on Pyotr for just inconsistent play and rest at the back end of the season. Like I said, before that LA Kings game, he was fine. He was doing great. It's just he got put into a bad situation where the Kings couldn't miss and the Hurricanes just couldn't play defense. Do I still have trusted him, and do I believe that he's going to be probably the guy of the future? Yeah, because we've seen that he can do it, and you saw him get more mature as the season went. He wasn't as aggressive. He was still aggressive, but at the right moments, not these random, what are you doing type of situations.